Hi there, welcome to this build of a 65-inch wingspan Great Plains Trainer 60. Now up until now we've constructed the basic structure of the wings and the kind of a basic structure of the fuselage. Still a lot to do on both the wings and the fuselage. Well, actually we've also on a shelf here got the tailplane and the fin and the rudder. But we're concentrating on the wings and the fuselage and how those wings actually hold down, tie down onto the fuselage itself. Now in the manual, sorry, not the manual, the plans on the wall behind me, they have two different methods that you can use. One is dowels going through and elastic bands. Oh, I really don't like elastic bands. So, and the other method is having bolts back and front screwing down. On the back I'm going to do that. I think that's great. I'm going to strengthen this, I'm going to put some Balsa in so it's strong enough and some mounting plates in the fuselage, and that will screw down lovely. On the front I really don't like the idea of screwing down through that lovely smooth streamlined leading edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some 8mm hardwood dowels on the underside of the wing, which will project out far enough to be located in this former here, this cross former, which is a 6mm light birch ply. And we haven't secured that in place at the moment because only when we've done the wing saddles and got the incidence just right and we know that the wing is where it should be, we will then push it into that former and secure that former so it's nice and tight, holding those wings down. If we do it before we do these saddles, we're going to end up with a sloppy wing. If we get more time in this video, because we're going to do these two locking mechanisms, if we get more time I'm going to be looking at the shear webbing and also doing some of this sheeting on the underside here. So I'll move the camera around now and we'll have a closer look at this front section, and I'll show you what I've been doing and how I'm going to sort those dowels. Right, well, this is the top of the wing, front, back, and you can see when we glued the wings together we put in this dihedral brace with these two 8mm holes 40mm apart, 20mm off the centre line and just above this bottom spar. And that's going to be the support for the back of the dowels that we're going to put in to lock the wing in. If we turn this over, you can see there's also the shear webbing just on the back of these spars. Haven't put it on the rest of the gaps between the spars, just on this central section to give it a bit of strength. Now, I can push a dowel through, and that will, let me put it through from that side, put a dowel through, and that is, I don't know whether you can see it just sticking through there, and that essentially is what we want to create. Two of those whereby they come through and fit into that cross former, but we need to make this strong enough and suitable to hold that. Now what I've done is I've marked on here the sides of the inner edge of the fuselage sides. So up to this point, coming this way, we need to have this following the profile of the wing, because the wing saddles are going to be around here like this. Now I've been working on a structure to hold this strong enough so that we won't have our wing ripping off as we do our first loop. And I've just been playing around with some card, making a former to go in there. Now I'm going to make this from 3mm ply. I've got some quite nice 3mm birch ply, and that is going to just sit in there like that, nice and snug against the back of that leading edge spar. Now it's great making these things out of cardboard, because if they're not big enough you can just glue a bit on, cut the hole too big in the middle, glue a bit on. So, and once I've got that to the right size, I'll just draw around it on my plywood. Save me wasting plywood and balsa. So essentially that's going to go in the front there. I will probably put in a little bit of triangular stock on the back of this, or on the top of this spar between that and the sheeting, just to make a flat surface there that this will then glue onto. And I will probably cut out a little bit of this leading edge here of this this rib, just so that that comes down a little bit further down to this point here, and that will just make it a lot stronger. Now once I've got that in place, and let's just check, I think that there we go. Once we've got that in place like that, what we can do is, I've got some other bits of balsa, I've got some ribs that will go in like that to there. I've got another rib this side. Now these ribs will just pick up the edge of the sheeting. That I haven't got any thin balsa, but that's so the sheeting will come along from the wing, and let me just see if I've got something a bit thinner in my scraps box. So the sheeting will come along like that up to that point. Now from here on we want to enclose that, and so I've got a couple of pieces of balsa rib shaped on the bottom, and that's just going to fit in like that, level with this top edge. And I've got another one here that will come in to there, and then that itself will, oops sorry, I put that on the wrong one, on there like that. So this is going to pick up the sheeting to there, and then this piece here will be sheeted separately. So this essentially on the top here will be boxed in, and this will be sheeted as normal like that. And this box section will just step down into the fuselage, and of course there'll be a second dowel. So I'm going to get on and start to pull that together now, and we'll come back and have a look and see what it looks like when we've got it done. Right, well, I thought I'd do a quick update of where I am with these locking dowels that are going to hold the wing onto the fuselage. I've now got this cross brace in and the dowels fitted. It's not glued yet. Now I've done the brace in 6mm birch ply. I originally did it in this 3mm, but I thought it would be stronger, better if I used a slightly thicker ply, and there's very little extra weight gain. Now before we glue this, we need to make sure that the dowels are parallel to each other. Last thing we want is them sort of tapered, splaying out, splaying in, because it'll affect how they fit when they plug into the fuselage. And so I've just measured the distance here, and I can always adjust the holes before I epoxy them, sanding them out a bit to get them parallel. I also need to make sure that they're parallel, if you like, to these spars, and the way I did that is I just put that onto the dowels, and I just viewed it from this direction, got down, viewed it from this direction, and made sure that the tip of this sanding stick was the same height on the spars here. I mean, it'd be just the same. Use a ruler, and just to make sure that they're in the right location, they're not cocked over like that or like that. So I've cut down the front of this spar, and the reason I've done that is because I'm putting on not only this piece of balsa, which will bring out the front of the wing, but also, and obviously this needs trimming a little bit so it ties in with the sheeting that comes across. Still a little bit tall, a little bit wide, but I'll glue that in place and then sand it to fit, or cut it to fit. But also I've cut this spar down because it allows a bigger distance. This is the cross former. in the fuselage that I've taken out, and it just allows a bigger depth there to make that stronger to hold these dowels nice and secure. So that just goes like that into the wing. And so we've got the wing and we've got the crossformer into the fuselage, and that will just plug in like that when it's on the fuselage. All very tight at the moment because I don't want to have it sloppy. I'd rather have it tight and then make it fit afterwards. So that's how the fuselage will be, and I've got the sheeting that obviously needs to go on. I've got the little riblets to go in there, or the front part of the ribs to go in as support for this sheeting, and then that will just plug into the fuselage as I just showed. Right, we're on a real roll now, and we've almost got this sorted. I've got the riblets in, the supports for this structure around here. I've put on the sheeting on this side of the wing, but I thought we'd have a look at it before I put the sheeting this side. And I've also done a cover which will just fit over that kind of box section, and here we have the sheeting, still needs cut into size, that will just go on there like that. Now I haven't glued in the hardwood dowels yet, they're still free moving, and I'm not going to do that until the very last point which I need to do. I'll probably also have to build this front out just a very slight amount, but again I won't worry about that until I've got the fuselage, the wing sitting on the fuselage, and we're ready to actually glue this former into place on the fuselage. I'll just show you, I'll just move the camera around and things around and show you how that goes together. Right, well, here's the fuselage with the crossformer with the two holes. We've got our wing with the two dowels sticking out the bottom, and this central section here, box section that fits nicely between the fuselage, and the holes will just accept those dowels nicely. Of course, this all needs fitting properly, and that will get done once we've done these saddles and make sure we know where the wing should be sitting. So now I'm going to get the sheeting done on this side, but before I do that I'm just going to put a single piece of shear webbing on the inside edge of those two spars, which will then be covered up and I won't have very good access to once this is sheeted. I am going to do shear webbing on the other side of the spars all the way along, but obviously this one is difficult to get to. I just want to put I've got one there, I've got one there, and the same on this side, just to give that central portion a bit more strength, and then I'll put the shear webbing going all the way along. Well, not all the way along, probably about halfway down the wing. The shear webbing isn't shown on the plans, but there is absolutely no weight or very little weight to this shear webbing, but it provides incredible strength to a wing and resistance to twisting. So I'm just going to add some pieces probably halfway along the wing. Right, well, I've got the sheeting done now on the top and bottom of the leading edge, and I've also put in the shear webbing. You can see here I've gone out to 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5th bay on both sides on this back edge, and as we saw earlier on the front edge of the spars I've just done the shear webbing on the first two, and it's incredible how more robust it makes the wing feel. If you're going to do shear webbing, just try twisting the wing and seeing how much it flexes, just gently, and then put the shear webbing on and try again. It's incredible how rigid it becomes. Now when I'm measuring the shear webbing, rather to the balsa to cut, rather than using a ruler and measuring it, I just use a pair of internal calipers, and I find that a really good way just to get the measurement right. And measure it top and bottom. I mean, the ribs should be square and parallel to each other, so it should be a square cut on the ends of the shear webbing, but it's worth just measuring with these internal calipers. Really useful. And when we do the shear webbing, the grain of the balsa needs to be vertical. It mustn't go horizontal along the plane of the wing, because it just doesn't have the strength, and it's likely to shear under stress, and it's not going to help protect the wing. Whereas vertically, so much stronger. As you can see here on this, it's you can see the grains running down vertically on the wing. Now the next job is just to get this back section finished here, where we're going to bolt down to attach the wing to the fuselage. And I'm just filling in this back edge here with a couple of pieces of balsa on either side, and I've just shaped that piece so that it fits nice and level with the top of the ribs there, so that will accept the sheeting quite nicely. And then I'm putting a triangular piece in like this, which will just make up that side again to accept the sheeting. It's a little bit proud at the moment, but I'd rather get the underside or the top side, this piece just right, get this in, and then just sand that to fit to the top of the ribs. And as I said, then we'll get the sheeting in. When I do the sheeting, I'm going to put in where the actual bolts are going to go. I will put in a piece of plywood just so that the bolts don't pull down into the balsa. So I'm going to get that glued now, and then I think we're almost done for this this part of the build. Well, we've now got the wing attachment points finished. We've got the dowels protruding out to the front here to lock into the former on the fuselage, and we've got the back strengthened where we can bolt down into the fuselage. And I think we've come up with quite a good solution that's not only robust but also light. And I don't think we've added any weight compared to the solution that's proposed on the plans, particularly the bolt down, where you've got quite a bit of quite a chunk of hardwood there for the bolts to go into. So I think this is a really good solution. Now the next thing, we're almost ready to set this onto the fuselage and get the incidence right in those saddles, but there's one last job that we need to finish, and this will be the focus of the next video, and that's sheeting in this central area, top and bottom. We still haven't glued these dowels in or covered that. We've got the cover here, but sheeting in this area. Now before we can sheet that in though, we need to put the wing servos in, and the wing servos, I think, I'm going to have another think about it, but I think are going to go here, fairly close into the fuselage to keep that weight nice and central. The less weight we have out on the wingtips, the better and more manoeuvrable I believe it will be. Now, there's just one last thing before I draw this video to a close. We've got to try the wings on the fuselage. It's always good just to have a look and see how this goes, and to really see how this is starting to take shape. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you found it useful.